Hello, people of the internet! My name is Kay, and welcome to Yas Veritas, or welcome back to Yas Veritas, my hyperfixation palace. And welcome to part 3 of my hyper-detailed tier ranking of 100 television shows I watched and enjoyed as a kid. If you're here, you likely watched parts 1 and 2, so I don't think I'm going to re-explain the tiers. Here is the list, and I think I'm going to give that wheel a spin. Number 51 is Jack's Big Music Show, and this was a really fun one. I couldn't tell you the plot in detail, but I do know the main character is this puppet, Jack, and he had 2 puppet friends. Pretty sure one of them was a cat or dog, and they'd play different instruments. I do remember there being segments of live-action artists singing some songs interspersed with the puppetry. I also remember the theme song, but not enough else about the show to put it anywhere higher than fond memories. I do remember that it was a lot of fun and really, really cute, though. Next is Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and I really liked this show. It was a little different than my usual favorites, but it was just so funny. I remember the characters really vividly. I remember the episode where Frankie, Blue, and Mr. Harriman, I think, run for House President. Blue and Mr. Harriman run this, hate campaign against Frankie. But against all odds, she wins, and Harriman gets kicked out of the house. And she, later finds him, bagging groceries and working a lot of other jobs. And he just seems so humble and down on his luck. And then she concedes, and, he takes over again. I don't know why I remember it so well. I think it was the one I watched repeatedly. I don't remember much else. But I feel like it should go in fond memories also. I honestly don't remember anything outside of this episode, so it wouldn't feel right to put it in any of the first 3 tiers. Oh yes, next is Strawberry Shortcake's Berry Bitty Adventures. Now, there was already a Strawberry Shortcake show ranked in a previous part, and that was the 2003 2D animated version. This version came out in 2009 and was CG. I absolutely loved this show. I liked the 2003 Strawberry Shortcake better, just because it felt more wholesome and true to the original character's concept. I did like how these versions of the characters seemed a bit older, they ran their own businesses. I also enjoyed that different characters were explored in this version. The originals that transferred over from 03 were Strawberry Shortcake, Blueberry Muffin, Orange Blossom, and Lemon Meringue. But my favorites in this series were the newer characters that we hadn't seen much of in previous iterations, like Plum Pudding, Raspberry Torte, Cherry Jam. I loved the Cherry Jam special. I have it on DVD and rewatch it rather frequently. But I don't think this show will go in literally watching it right now. It's definitely peak viewing experience, but I feel like that row of shows is sacred, and this doesn't quite crack that line, I guess. It doesn't cross that line. That makes more sense. So yes, into peak viewing experience it goes. Oh, next is Clifford the Big Red Dog, and this was such a sweet and wholesome show. It was a pretty stacked voice cast too. I mean, John Ritter, Greta Lyle, Cree Summer, Kel Mitchell, Kath Soyce. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her last name. Kath Soyce? I'm going with Soyce. But anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I, like many others, enjoyed the conflicts between the dogs more so than the conflicts between the people. I especially liked Mac, the mean girl, her dog, and his sort of holier-than-thou attitude. I thought he was hysterical. While this is definitely a classic, for me, it belongs up in Will Cry from nostalgia. Number 55 is JoJo's Circus, and this is a real oldie for me. I barely remember anything about it. I recognize the character designs, and I kind of remember the theme song, but based off my very spotty memories, it was relatively simple. It was just a circus clown and her little lion friend, and they would do circusy things. It was claymation, which I really enjoyed. I mean, it was simple. It was lovely. It was something I watched at a very, very young age, so my memories of it are limited. I did say that already, but I don't want to pad for any more runtime. I think this is going to end up in... I don't think it's a will cry from nostalgia, but it's going to go in fond memories, and I'll probably move things around so it ends up near the front of that list, because it was just so cute. Oh my gosh, next is Oswald. And Oswald is, in my opinion, the simplest show on this list. In the best way. I loved Oswald. He was just this blue little octopus who'd walk his dog, a dachshund weenie. I don't remember much else happening. I'm sure other things did, but I just picture him walking along the little yellow background while that sweet piano music plays, and it's so wholesome. It's just so cute. It's definitely a will cry from nostalgia. I'm getting absurdly emotional just talking about it for no reason. It was just so soothing. I don't know what's going on. I just loved it so much. Next is Teletubbies. And this show is very well known for being absolutely absurd. Irrelevant to this list, I recently thought about this show after hearing the audio on Instagram that sounds like it's Brandon Urie, but it's not Brandon Urie, it's the other guy who people think is Brandon Urie.
Arkin Teletubbies, Tinky Winky, Dipsy, and motherfucking Poe.
Yeah, that one. As much as I don't like to, I guess, quote-unquote, clown on things, this is somewhat kind of deserved, because I just don't understand what went on in that writer's room, who was smoking what, but something was not right. Even as a kid, I didn't hate it, but I was kind of put off. I was like, what is this? Why are they doing this? Why are they moving like this? Why? Just why? I also remember it breaking the internet when the Sun Baby actor who played the Sun Baby was like, hi, I'm an adult and I'm married now, and everyone was like, whoa, we feel old. That was kind of wholesome, but the show itself was so bizarre, and unfortunately, I don't think I have any positive memories attached to it. So, with all my love, you, my friend, are going right down to Uncanny Valley Nightmare Fuel tier. Okay, I did have to cut my reaction to seeing this show name pop up because I literally went, oh, yo, very loudly, and I didn't want to blow out anybody's headphones. But the next show is The Backyardigans, and this is one of my all-time favorite pieces of media. It is truly, I think, one of, in the top 3, the funniest shows I watched as a kid. Maybe ever, probably not ever, but as a kid, this was hilarious. I was able to recently rewatch a couple episodes of the show for my Psychology of Children's Television class I mentioned in part 1, I think, and it was such a treat. The cast is so funny to me because the first Pablo in season 1, and I think some of season 2, was Zach Tyler Eisen, who then left the show to voice Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I know one of the Tyrones, I think he was seasons 2 and 3, was Leon Thomas from Victorious. So those are just fun facts about the cast that I enjoy. And I loved the writing, and I loved all the characters. I was an Austin fan. I just thought he was so relatable. I related to him deeply as a child, and I was like, he's funny, he's kind of an underdog. I'm here for it. The songs in this show had no right to slap the way they did. I think about International Super Spy on a daily basis.
International Super Spy. Super Spy! Super Spy! Evil's met its match. I'll tell you why. I'm an international Super Spy!
And the guest stars? Cyndi Lauper? Alicia Keys? What's going on? It was just so ridiculous, but it worked. I love this show so much. It's definitely going up in the top tier, literally watching it right now. because a couple months ago, I kind of was. Okay, number 59 is Bunnytown. This is a show that I remember very fondly. I remember very little about it, but I remember it fondly. I remember the little theme song, I remember what the bunnies looked like. The puppets were in a similar vein to Jack's Big Music Show. I used to think those shows were related just because the puppets looked so similar, but I don't think they were. Bunnytown was what it sounds like. A bunch of bunnies living in a town, eating carrots, I assume, doing bunny things. But what was special about Bunnytown to me is that me and my sister, we had a lot of stuffed bunnies as a kid, and we would play Bunnytown. We would have them sing the little theme song and emulate the things the characters did on the show. I couldn't tell you what those things were, but I do know we did them. So that being said, it's definitely a fond memory. Next is Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and right off the bat, it's definitely got to go in classics because it was so well known, well loved. I don't have a huge attachment to it, but I do remember liking it. However, one absurd thing about this show, and it's more about me than the show, but Pete from Disney, used to scare the ever-loving shit out of me as a kid. I couldn't tell you why. I think it's because of his history as a villain in the Mickey Mouse canon, which is weird because I don't think I watched any of those old cartoons until after I had seen this show. Maybe it was because he had this sort of towering over, kind of mean air about him, but it used to terrify me. It would freak me out, and I would not watch an episode if he was in it. I don't know what that has to do with this ranking, I just thought you ought to know. That being said, the show's gonna go in classics. It's a classic. We all know the theme song, and the hot dog song at the end of each episode is a bop. Oh, next is Toot and Puddle, and this show only ran for 2 seasons, maybe 1 season, across 2 years. I don't know, one or the other. And not a lot of people I know watched it. I loved Toot and Puddle. I had some of the old books, and I actually preferred the show to the books because it was much more dynamic and adventurous. I feel like the books were very simple and sweet. Toot and Puddle had an educational aspect to it. The characters would travel around the world to real world places like India, and they would learn about them. They would give out little facts. They might speak some words of the native language. It was just fun. I think I'm more of a Puddle than a Toot. Puddle was more of the homebody, quiet one, and Toot was more of the adventurous, spontaneous one. I also know that Toot is voiced by queer activist Joe Vanicola. Go Joe, we love you. What was I saying? Right, the show. All the other characters were also so cute, so sweet. I loved their little cousin Opal. She was adorable. I loved Lily the Frog, and I loved Desmond the kangaroo who came in mid-season, I think. Why am I lying? I don't think. I know. I rewatched this show earlier this year because I also did a project on it for my class. I promise this class was real. I can show you the syllabus. I'm not making this up. But even if I didn't have the class, I would probably have eventually rewatched this show on my own. All of that being said, I think it definitely has to go in peak viewing experience because it really was for me. It was just so much fun and educational without beating you over the head with it, and I don't like when shows do that. This was so, I don't know, it was just kind of perfect. Yeah. Okay, number 62 is Phineas and Ferb, and this show is so well loved by myself and by the masses. Perry the Platypus is my favorite character. It is one of my life goals to do the little trill he does. I think I've only ever managed to do it kind of right once. I don't remember when or how, but it is on my bucket list. I really want to learn to do it. I love his dynamic with the boys and with Dr. Doofenshmirtz. I also had the app game Where's My Perry, which was a spin-off of Where's My Water, the game where you get the water to the shower for the alligator. Did anyone else have either of those games? I feel like I'm the only one living in this world who still actively plays it like I played it yesterday. I loved the detective agency again. As I've mentioned in probably both parts 1 and 2, I was a huge detective head as a kid, so like anything Sherlock-y, Nancy Drew-y, detective-y I was into, and I loved Perry. I love this show, and I'm so excited to watch the new stuff coming out now. So, of course, literally watching it right now, because I will be very, very soon. Oh, next is Little Bill, and this show, if you don't know, is somewhat inspired or influenced by The Cosby Show, which is a can of worms I will not be opening. However, I really, 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 really liked Little Bill. It was such a cute show. I loved the art style, I loved the large family he had, and I loved that he felt like a real kid. He had problems like, going to school or like getting the chicken pox and missing a sporting event. And yeah, it was pretty simple, sweet. I really liked his sister April. Again, love a older sibling moment, especially a sister, because that's what I am. I think not only because it was inspired by previously existing media, but because it felt like a classic among my peers, it's going to go in classics. Number 64 is Word World, and this show was so much fun. In case you couldn't infer from the title, it was educational. However, it went about it in a really interesting way and made everything out of words. The characters, the buildings, the surroundings. Like there was a character, for example, Duck. He was made out of different letters, D-U-C-K, to spell duck, and it made the character. It was such a smart idea, because they'd say a word, they'd spell a word, they'd like barn, they'd spell the word barn, and then like the letters would smush together and make like an accurate barn to scale. Not to life-size scale, but to scale to the characters. The theme song was a jam. I still remember every word. The plots were pretty simple. A character would need something and they would, talk to other characters, and together they'd spell the word. Sometimes they would look for the letters, but eventually they'd spell the word and create the thing. It was a classic. It's also a very fond memory, but I think it leans more to classic because a lot of people I know really enjoyed it. So yeah, classics it is. Next is The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, our third Winnie the Pooh entry on this list. Telling you, I was obsessed. The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh came out in the 90s, I believe, and they are, as self-described, new, so they're completely original stories that didn't originate from the books. And a lot of them were kind of insane. There was an episode where the gang falls down a wishing well, and Tigger hallucinates this, elaborate birthday party that the friends weren't able to plan for him. There's another episode where Gopher blows up a tree to try to get honey, and it was just really wacky, but so much fun. Once again, the reason I am so well versed in these plot points is because I rewatched this show, last month. It was on Disney Plus, and they had all the episodes. I only ever had 10 or so on a bunch of DVDs, so seeing how wacky the adventures really get was a lot of fun. I am also just a huge sucker for the old group of voice actors. John Fiedler as Piglet, Paul Winchell as Tigger, Peter Cullen as Eeyore, Ken Sansom as Rabbit. They just feel like the characters, and it's so interesting to see new iterations of the show with those actors being gone. I mean, Jim Cummings, my hero, does a fantastic job of being Tigger and Pooh, which is something I just cannot fathom what a talent. It's just nice hearing those old voices again. So definitely, it's gonna go up in literally watching it right now. Although if we're being honest, I have cried watching this. Next, we have Curious George, and this show was a lot of fun. I love the dynamic of George and the man with the yellow hat, whose name I don't think we ever learn, which I think is pretty funny. I like that he has a city home and a suburb home where he does like very rural things like growing gardens. I really like the narration that sort of is a backdrop for the events that go on in the show. I also think that George's little sequences of imagination are really cute. I love that they look like they're hand-drawn, and I think it's funny to see him try to avoid the scenarios he creates in his head. And even though he's a monkey, he really does feel like a kid, and it's just a cute show, so I think it's definitely going to go in classics. Okay, next is another one of my absolute favorites, Peep and the Big Wide World. This show was so chaotic. It was so simple, yet so chaotic. It was so much fun. I loved it. So this show is kind of about exploring your surroundings and the world around you. It wasn't outwardly educational, but it had that sort of underlying message. It was narrated by Joan Cusack, who voices Jessie in Toy Story. Funny. And it follows these simply drawn 3 birds. There's Peep, adorable little yellow one, Chirp, the sort of logical, witty red one, and Quack, the jelly bean-shaped duck with a little sailor's hat who is so egotistical, but so funny. And the 3 of them just get up to whatever they get up to. Sometimes they're trying to teach each other how to fly, or find shelter in a little rainstorm, or paint a picture. But the dialogue is so witty. It definitely feels like it's writing to kids, but not talking down to them. And it still just manages to be just hysterical. I remember this one episode where another jelly bean-shaped duck, also named Quack, voiced by Megan Mullally, moves to town, and Quack has like this identity crisis. And like the other Quack is like super rude to him and like steals all his stuff and like renames him. It's like, you can't have this name anymore, it's mine. And it was just so funny. It was so memorable too. The theme song also slaps. Those PBS theme songs, they just go so hard. I think this is also going to go up in tier 1, literally watching it right now, because I did watch it a couple years ago when I first rediscovered it, but it's something I definitely would turn on for entertainment purposes just because it's so funny. It's nice to have so many tier 1s popping up in this round. But yes, that's where it will go. Oh, next is Little Bear. And this show was like a cup of tea on a cold winter's night. It was so soothing, so simple, and so enjoyable. I loved all the characters. I think Duck was my favorite. Duck or Little Bear. They were all just so cute and so flawlessly adapted from the books. I had the Little Bear books before I watched the show, and it felt like they were just leaping off the page. It was so well done. The music was so nice. It was so soothing. It was just so lovely. I don't have much else to say. Although I do remember one episode that traumatized me. It was called Lucy's Okay. So Emily's doll Lucy was like a character, her own character. She didn't have any lines, but the other characters treated her as though she was real. And so Duck sits on her one day, and then everyone goes, okay, so Lucy's dead, and we have to throw a funeral for this doll. I think it was the first time I ever heard the word dead, and I didn't really understand what was going on, but all the other characters were in mourning, and I was horrified. I was like, what's wrong? Why is she dead? She's okay. At the end of the episode, they figure out, oh, she wasn't dead. She just got knocked out when Duck sat on her. And they're like, yep, she's okay. And I was like, we brushed past that so quickly. I'm gonna need therapy. I'm gonna need you to back it up. Like, huh? But other than that, it was great. So I think it's gonna go in fond memories because I really did like it. And for the most part, it was very wholesome. Except when it wasn't. That one time, I literally have not seen this show in probably almost 15 years. However, this episode sticks in my brain so much. I wish I could let it go and forget it, but I can't. I mean, it doesn't affect me now, but I just remember little me was so sad. Little Bear, what the f? Next is the Berenstain Bears, another show about bears. And this show was so much fun. I had the books, I loved the books, but I liked the show way more. It was just so wholesome, and even though they were bears, they really felt like a real family. Like they went through normal problems, like potholes and the mayor not doing anything about it, or like not making the soccer team, or, getting jealous when your sibling gets a new bike, or being afraid to start the 3rd grade. It was just so real and so much fun. Another one of my random voiceover facts. This is probably my favorite one across any show on this list. Brother Bear, not the movie, the character, was voiced by none other than Scott Pilgrim himself, Michael Cera. And it's just like, yeah, it's so random, and I love it. Like, I love this show. It's so much fun. It was so... Like, I don't have anything negative to say about it. Yeah, I think it's probably going to go in peak viewing experience, because although I do an annual rewatch of the Halloween episodes with my sister, it's not literally rewatching it right now. Maybe it is. You know what? I think it is. I think it's going to go in literally watching it right now, because now that I think about it, I think I would turn it on any given day for entertainment purposes. Because it's just fun. There's no other word for it. It's enjoyable. So yeah. Number 70 is Franklin, also known as Franklin the Turtle in some regions, so I've heard. This show was so nice. I remember really liking it. I don't remember a whole lot of other characters other than Franklin and his family. I remember the Christmas episode where he leaves his little blue dog toy in the snow and has to, deal without it. As someone who also had a lovey, I was feeling his pain. I was feeling his pain in that moment. I was like, damn, how is he gonna make it? But he made it and had a fun Christmas. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot of other memories attached to it. The show was just so nice. I said that already. It was just nice. It was. And I love the theme song. It was so... Don't say it. It was nice, but it was just wholesome and enjoyable and lovely. Those are other words that mean nice, but you know what I'm saying. You understand me. That being said, I think it might go in Will Cry from Nostalgia, because let me tell you, if you turn on that time capsule episode, I'm gone. I'm sobbing. Next is Seven Little Monsters, and this is one of the earliest shows I think I watched. It was based on Where the Wild Things Are, the book, the classic book. And it was just literally 7 little monsters, and each of them had a thing. I know there was one that liked ballet and one that liked baseball, I think. But I don't remember much else about it, nor do I know anyone else who's ever watched it. I think it's going to go in Harmless but Odd. And I have those similar feelings about the Where the Wild Things Are book, because it was honestly quite bizarre. But harmless, at least to me. The illustrations were a bit spooky. I do remember being a little unnerved by them, but not to the point of any actual harm being done. And given that the books and the show share similar art styles, the same goes for the show. So I think harmless but odd is where it's going to live. Next is The Wiggles, and this, just by definition, is a classic. There have been so many different iterations of it. By so many, I think like maybe 2 or 3. But it was still contextualized for a new generation. I have a younger cousin who only knows the newer version. It was just fun. It was a bunch of dudes in colored shirts, and they would dance around with their little puppets. Maybe not little, I think they were life-sized. Who cares? They were fun, and they were silly, and it was just a classic. I don't have a whole lot to say about it because it's just so well known, and I don't really remember there being a plot, but it was fun, and it was classic, yeah. Oh, good lord. Next is Barney, and this is a show that I find very divisive because the show itself isn't a bad show. It's very wholesome and simple, and it's just a bunch of kids learning to be friends and share, I guess, and other important friendship lessons. However, the look of the dinosaur characters, I mean, maybe not even all of them. I think the other 2, I remember the yellow one and the orange one, weren't that uncomfortable looking. They looked fine. Their voices were a little silly, but again, they were harmless. It was just Barney himself had a weird voice. I didn't like his design as a kid, and I don't like it now. Just, there was something about the long, singular tooth that ran across his whole mouth that as a kid didn't scare me, but just pissed me off. I can't tell you why. I didn't like the proportions of his face, and the way he moved was just kind of weird. The show as a whole isn't bad enough to put it in Uncanny Valley Nightmare Fuel, because, I mean, I will sort of like cringe if I see it, but it's not something that will keep me up at night. And the show itself doesn't have enough what the f moments for it to really belong down there. So it's going in Who Approved This. Number 74, our second to last show, is Madeline. And I absolutely adored Madeline. This is a show that I can absolutely describe as aesthetically pleasing. I loved that it felt like the characters, like a lot of other shows on this list, jumped out of the books. The art style was perfect. It was cast perfectly. I don't know who many of the voice actors were, but their voices suited the characters so well. I love Christopher Plummer, and he was just the perfect pick for the narrator. It was such a wholesome show. There were some moments that were a bit hair-raising, like when Madeline fell off the bridge and almost drowned, but she was quickly rescued by a dog, so no lasting trauma here. It was just so nice. I loved it. The songs were fun. One of my favorite episodes is when they go to New York and everyone talks with the most hilariously stereotypical New York accent I've ever heard. Living in New York, I haven't heard anyone talk like that, but it's just so much fun. And I think it might actually go into, I don't think it's literally watching right now material, because although I do return to it sometimes, it's not something I would just turn on. It's definitely peak viewing experience though. And finally, number 75 is Bear in the Big Blue House. This show was such a comfort. It sort of had similar energy to Big Comfy Couch and Blue's Clues, in that it was just so comforting. I loved the characters. I don't remember their names. I'm pretty sure the bear was just named Bear, but if he isn't, I apologize to millennials and Generation Zs everywhere. I absolutely loved the mouse who wore the red shirt, and went around being like, everyone must think I want attention because I'm wearing red.
They'll probably look at me and say, hey, look at that little mouse in red! He must really like to get attention!
I hope that's from this show. Otherwise, I'm an idiot. But I thought he was funny. It was just so sweet. The show was nice. It felt like home. And unfortunately, I don't have much else to say about it. Because again, I was probably under 3 when I watched it. So I think it's going to go in classics, and that is a nice, wholesome end to this iteration of ranking 100 childhood television shows. 1 part to go. Here is the final ranking for this episode. And here is the final ranking of everything thus far. As you can see, I have minimized all of the titles so I can fit everything. When I do the official final ranking, I will make the images themselves a little smaller so everything can fit. But this is what it looks like for now. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know which show on this list was your favorite, and stay tuned for part 4, the grand finale, coming next week.